There is a secret in the male mind that very few women know, a secret that Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists in history, dedicated his life to studying. Have you ever noticed how some men become completely obsessed with a woman just when they feel they're losing control? This is no coincidence. It's not some cheap manipulation tactic. It's a deep mechanism of the male psyche, one that operates from the darkest corners of the unconscious. The shocking truth is this: a man will never value what he takes for granted. His mind needs tension, challenge, uncertainty. He needs to feel that the woman in front of him is a mystery, not a trophy already won. When a woman understands this principle, the game changes. Her mere presence transforms the dynamic. Without saying a word, without raising her voice, she activates something within him that forces him to react. Have you ever wondered why so many intelligent, beautiful, and loving women are ignored by the men who claim to love them, while others who don't seem to do anything extraordinary manage to have those same men at their feet? The answer lies in a psychological pattern that activates what Jung called the warrior archetype. Since ancient times, men have been wired to conquer, not to receive effortlessly. When everything is given too easily, without mystery, without tension, something inside him shuts off. Desire fades, interest dissolves. But there is a key, a door to the deepest part of his unconscious. It's not about ignoring him out of spite. It's about ignoring him with wisdom. And when you do it the right way, he can't help but chase you. He looks at you differently. He values you more. He desires you like never before. Carl Jung explained it with a clarity few have understood. The male unconscious is designed to value only what represents a challenge. When a man feels he already has you, that he doesn't need to put in effort, that you're always available, something inside him begins to close off. It's not because he's bad, or because he doesn't love you. It's because his psyche interprets it as a battle already won. And without battle, there's no glory. Without challenge, no excitement. Without tension, no desire. This is why so many incredible women who give everything, love unconditionally, and devote themselves completely, end up being ignored or taken for granted, while others, who simply know how to regulate their emotional energy, become an obsession for men. The secret isn't to give more, but to know when to give, and when to withdraw. It's not about punishment, but about creating space. It's not about pretending, but reclaiming control of your own worth. Jung spoke of something he called the tension of opposites, a natural force that balances masculine and feminine, proximity and distance, desire and mystery, certainty and doubt. When you eliminate that tension by always being available, you create a void. The man stops fighting. He no longer feels the need to conquer you. And when there's no conquest, his warrior archetype falls asleep. The solution isn't to disappear. It's what Jung would call a strategic withdrawal of energy. It's not about ignoring him childishly, but balancing the energetic flow between you and him. When you do it right, not with manipulation but with self-awareness, he feels it. He doesn't understand what's changed, but he senses it. His mind goes on alert. His ego is shaken. And for the first time in a long time, he starts wondering if he's about to lose you. And in that precise moment, when he begins to perceive that subtle shift, something profound awakens in his unconscious. Jung described it as the awakening of the dormant archetype. That inner warrior, once inactive, now stirs. You're no longer automatically there for him. He can no longer meet your smile with indifference. Because now there's doubt, now there's absence. And in that absence, desire is born. Many women believe ignoring a man means cutting off all communication, disappearing completely, leaving his messages unanswered. But that, more than activating his desire, often activates his pride or his indifference. He interprets it as rejection, as a breakup. The right approach, according to Jung, isn't to create emptiness, but emotional scarcity. You're still there, but different. Your energy has shifted. You're not chasing him, not orbiting around him. You've recentered yourself. And that is one of the most magnetic things a man can experience. He starts wondering what happened, why you're no longer so available, why you don't seem as excited to see him, what's going on in your world that seems more interesting than him. And that's where mystery comes in, the desire to be important again, to regain your attention, and most importantly, to reconquer you. This isn't a game. It's not manipulation. It's deep psychology. It's recognizing that every human being, especially men, who have been wired for millennia to hunt and conquer, needs to feel that what they have isn't guaranteed. Only then will they truly value it. When he senses that you don't need him, but choose him from your center, from your freedom, then he looks at you with new eyes. And that's where true feminine magnetism is born. Not in giving everything away, but in having everything within yourself first. The woman who understands this no longer begs, no longer chases, no longer anxiously waits for a sign of attention, because she knows her worth doesn't depend on another's gaze, but on her own perception. And that internal shift is what Jung would call individuation, the process where you stop living to be desired and start living from your own essence. Now, how do you practice this emotional scarcity in concrete terms? It's not about ignoring his messages for hours just to seem interesting. It's about responding without urgency, conversing without oversharing, being present without being completely available. It's a subtle dance between presence and absence, between giving and withdrawing. And as you make this internal adjustment, he begins to feel something he can't explain, a restlessness, a small void, a sense of impending loss. His mind doesn't rationalize it, but his unconscious reacts. His protective instinct, his drive to recover and conquer, is activated. And without realizing it, he starts seeking you again. Not because you manipulated him, but because you restored his need to fight for you. Most women don't apply this because they've been conditioned to please, to give more when they feel the other pulling away, to fill the void with more effort, more attention, more devotion. But that strategy only creates more emptiness, more rejection, more disinterest, because the masculine archetype needs space to activate, not saturation. What you're doing is invoking his most ancient, deepest part, and that part doesn't respond to logic, it responds to energy, to tension, to mystery. In this new energetic balance, he starts acting differently, more present, more committed, more focused, because he feels he's about to lose something he didn't realize he valued so much: your essence, your energy, your inner light. But there's a crucial thing you must know. When he comes back, when he initiates contact, when he seeks your attention more intensely than before, you must not break the spell by returning to old patterns. Many women, seeing his response, immediately revert to being available, eager to please, to reward his change in behavior. And then, the cycle repeats. He feels he has you again, and desire fades once more. The real transformation happens when you maintain your new center, when his return doesn't make you lose your balance, when his attention isn't your oxygen, but an addition, a reflection of your own radiance. Jung said that the feminine soul, in its purest state, isn't compliant or passive. It's receptive, yes, but powerful, authentic, rooted in itself. And that's the kind of feminine energy that awakens the true warrior archetype in him. A man doesn't want a woman who needs him. He wants a woman who inspires him, who gives him reasons to grow, not excuses to stagnate. And that's only achieved by the woman who values herself enough to withdraw at the right time, when she feels she's giving more than she's receiving, not with resentment, but with dignity, not as punishment, but out of self-respect. This is where many women face their greatest internal challenge, because it's not easy to stop people-pleasing. It's not easy to hold emotional silence when your whole body wants to scream, when every fiber of your being wants to run to him, explain, beg, win him back. But that's precisely your turning point. Who do you choose to be in that moment? The woman who surrenders to her emptiness, or the woman who stands in her dignity? Carl Jung spoke of the power of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide, fear, refuse to face, the need for approval, the fear of being alone, the anxiety for validation. All of this is part of our shadow, and until we integrate it, it will control us. It will make us act from lack, not self-love. Ignoring him the right way isn't about ignoring him. It's about stopping ignoring yourself. It's about no longer putting yourself second. It's about directing your attention where it truly belongs, to your evolution, your well-being, your light. When you make this internal shift, everything changes. He feels it. No words or explanations are needed. Your energy is different, and energy doesn't lie. Suddenly, he encounters a different woman, not because you changed to manipulate him, but because you finally returned to yourself. And that's when he starts seeing you with new eyes, when desire reignites, when attraction is no longer just physical, but spiritual. Now here's something even more powerful. When you maintain this new state, the man doesn't just start valuing you more, he begins to admire you, because deep down, all men desire a woman who has her own world, a woman with passions, projects, a rich and fulfilling life that doesn't depend on him. The woman who becomes the sun, not a satellite, becomes magnetic. Her energy doesn't beg, demand, or chase. It simply emanates, and that radiance is irresistible. When you emotionally withdraw but maintain your physical presence with elegance, he enters an internal conflict. His ego wonders what he did wrong. His heart wonders if he's losing you, and his mind starts strategizing how to win you back. Because what was once obvious no longer is. What was his now feels uncertain, and that uncharted territory is the only thing capable of awakening his true interest. This isn't a trick to manipulate him. It's a way to re-educate his unconscious, to show him, without words, that you are a prize, not an option, that being with you is a privilege, not an automatic right. And that's only achieved by the woman who has faced her shadow, who has stopped seeking externally what she can only find within, the woman who no longer fears silence, but listens to her own voice. He starts texting more often, finding reasons to talk to you, remembering things he never mentioned before. But don't be fooled. This isn't the time to relent. This is the time to reaffirm your new stance, not with coldness, but with awareness, not with harshness, but with inner clarity. Respond.
but don't rush. Speak, but don't over-explain. Listen, but don't immediately bare your soul. You're no longer there to be saved, you're there to be seen. And whoever doesn't see you with the eyes of the soul doesn't deserve a place in your heart. This process, though it may seem slow, is creating a profound shift. Because it's not just about him chasing you, it's about you stopping the chase for those who don't choose you. It's about your energy no longer screaming "love me," but whispering "I love myself." That's the frequency that changes everything. Jung said the unconscious doesn't distinguish between symbol and reality. If you act like someone valuable, your mind transforms, and so does his perception of you. Your body speaks, your gaze speaks, your time speaks, and everything about you begins to reflect that you're no longer the woman he thought he had secured. And in that awakening, he starts to transform, not because you forced him, but because he now feels he must be better to match the woman you're becoming. But here's a hard and beautiful truth. Some men won't come back, and that, far from being a tragedy, is a blessing. Because not all are ready for a woman who values herself. Not all want the challenge of conquering something real. Some will prefer to stay in their comfort zone. And when you raise your standards, it's natural for them to fall behind. Don't be afraid if that happens, because every time a door closes, the universe opens a bigger one. And when you hold your energy, when you don't diminish yourself, when you stay centered, you attract something far greater than a man. You attract your destiny, the right man, the one who's ready to grow, who doesn't fear challenge, won't run from your new version. On the contrary, he'll feel inspired. He'll start admiring you. He'll know you're not there to fill a void, but to share your fullness. And that kind of connection can't be bought, begged, or forced. It's built on mutual respect. So what you're learning isn't just a relationship strategy, it's an initiation, a return to yourself, a new pact with your soul. Never again will I lose myself for love. Never again will I give myself to someone who doesn't give back. Never again will I confuse attention with love or availability with worth. This is the emotional alchemy that transforms your entire life. And as he senses your energy, more centered, solid, at peace, something stirs inside him. He can no longer ignore you. He can no longer dismiss your silences, because in that new silence, there's strength, there's a message, there's a decision. The woman who chooses to ignore from her core doesn't yell, beg, or dramatize. She simply withdraws, lets her energy speak for her. And in that emotional absence, he faces his greatest challenge, to reclaim what he thought was guaranteed. But beware, this isn't about being inaccessible forever. It's about evaluating, observing whether he's willing to give what he didn't before, whether his words now come with actions, whether his interest isn't just momentary but sustained. Because the woman who has found herself no longer sells herself cheap, no longer begs for love, no longer settles for crumbs. This is the dawn of a new era, where you choose from your light, where he doesn't choose you. You choose whether he deserves to be in your life. And that power of choice is what truly shakes him. Because for the first time he's no longer in control, no longer the one deciding when to appear or disappear, when to love or ignore. Now he faces the uncertainty, the possibility of losing a woman who no longer needs his validation to feel whole. When you occupy this new space, not from ego but from soul, everything changes. Your words carry weight. Your silences become eloquent. Your gaze no longer pleads, now it observes. And that version of you, that complete woman, is the one he can't forget. This isn't about playing with his mind, it's about awakening his soul. Because true connection isn't born from need, it's born from respect. And no man can deeply respect a woman who gives herself completely before he's proven he deserves her. Carl Jung said the soul craves wholeness. It doesn't seek relationships to fill voids, but to express its fullness. And when you start living from that wholeness, from that mature self-love, your relationships are no longer chains, they become wings. He'll start asking questions, seeking time with you, acting differently. And that's where you decide. Not from fear of losing him, but from the wisdom of knowing your worth. Because love isn't begged, it's honored. And only those who honor themselves can truly honor it. At this point, many women ask, how do I know if he's really changed or just reacting to the fear of loss? The answer lies in his consistency. The man who only responds out of fear will disappear as soon as he feels he's regained your attention. But the one who's truly touched by your transformation, who's awakened to the internal challenge, will show up differently on every level. He'll be more honest, more present, more conscious, and above all, more committed. Not just to the relationship, but to his own evolution. Because true love isn't about needing, it's about choosing to grow together. Jung believed the deepest relationships weren't those that avoided conflict, but those that moved through it to transform. And this process you're experiencing, of silence, of reconnecting with yourself, of strategic withdrawal, is a rite of passage, a filter, an alchemy that separates the superficial from the authentic. Because when you become a woman with clear boundaries, with your own priorities, with a world that doesn't revolve around him, only the men who are ready for real love will remain by your side. Those ready to build with you, to admire your light without trying to dim it. And that's the key difference. He doesn't seek you because he needs you. He seeks you because he recognizes you. Because now you're someone no longer available for mediocrity. And that changes everything. Don't underestimate the power of your emotional absence. You can't imagine how deeply it resonates in his masculine unconscious. When he senses you're no longer emotionally available, his mind starts reconstructing every moment he took for granted. He notices everything you gave that he didn't value. He starts missing details he once ignored. Your words, your laugh, your care, your silent presence. And that's where the real psychological miracle happens. Idealization. Not because you're playing with his mind, but because he now sees you clearly. You're no longer clouded by overavailability. Now in your emotional absence, your worth becomes undeniable. But be careful, this is where many women slip back. They see him responding, get excited, and return to old patterns of total devotion. And then, all progress is lost, because the key isn't making him react once. The key is maintaining your new energy forever. This isn't a temporary strategy. It's a permanent evolution, a new level of consciousness. It's saying, I no longer live to please you. I live to be myself. And if you want to walk with me, it must be from respect, reciprocity, and admiration. Jung said the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And you're no longer here to endure anyone's emotional indifference. You've crossed a threshold, and there's no going back. Now you understand why some women walk through life with a different aura. They're not more beautiful, not younger, not more perfect by societal standards. But they have something that sets them apart. They're not available for just anyone. They don't beg, plead, or compete. They simply are. And from that being, they inspire, awaken, and activate something deep in men. That's what you're cultivating. A mature feminine energy, one that doesn't lose itself in another, but finds itself. And from that center, it chooses, it selects, it attracts. Jung believed all true love begins with individuation, the conscious decision to stop depending on others for validation. When you take that step, you don't just become more attractive, you become unshakable. He feels it, senses it, observes it, and if he's ready, he'll step forward. If not, he'll step back. And both scenarios are gifts. Because if he can't rise to meet your new energy, it's better to know now, before you've given yourself away completely. This is your opportunity to honor your soul, to choose yourself first, to allow only the best to reach you, because you've stopped accepting the bare minimum. Now let's look at the ultimate outcome of this process.
Once you embody this new level of awareness, men perceive you differently, not just him, all of them, because your energy has changed. You no longer strive to please, no longer give your worth to the first one who shows a little attention. Now you evaluate, you choose, you decide who deserves to be by your side. And this doesn't just make you more attractive, it makes you free. You no longer need strategies to keep him, no longer live in fear of him leaving. Because if he goes, you know you'll still shine just as bright. Because your energy no longer depends on his presence. And that emotional independence is the pinnacle of feminine power. The most incredible irony, when you no longer need him, he needs you more. When you no longer orbit around him, he wants to be part of your universe. Because the man who's awakened to his true warrior archetype doesn't fear a powerful woman. He seeks her, respects her, honors her. And you now have become that woman. Not because you changed for him, but because you returned to yourself. And from that return, everything else aligns. From this new place, you no longer react, you respond. You no longer rush, you breathe. You no longer chase, you walk firmly on your path. And that is what changes the dynamic with any man. Because he now realizes he's not facing a girl desperate for love. He's facing a woman who's already found it within herself. When you become that woman, your standards shift. You no longer accept empty promises, no longer justify mediocre behavior, no longer cling to what doesn't honor you. Now you know that true love isn't begged, it's attracted, not forced, but cultivated, not pleaded for, but earned. And this feminine awakening isn't just a pretty theory, it's a real force, vibrant, magnetic, powerful. It transforms every space you touch, every conversation, every decision you make, because now you live from your core, not your lack. He looks at you and doesn't quite understand what changed, but he feels it, and that unsettles him, because you no longer belong to him emotionally, you belong to yourself. And that woman, that energy, that new center, is the greatest gift you can give yourself, and the greatest challenge he'll ever face. But even at this new level, tests will come, days of doubt, moments of weakness, because the old pattern, the one that made you seek attention and approval, will try to return. But now you have tools. You know that real love isn't measured by how much you give, but by how much you give yourself first. And that's your daily practice, returning to you, remembering yourself, holding your ground, celebrating yourself, making you the priority without guilt, loving your own company, protecting your energy like the treasure it is. And if he comes back, as many do, he'll come with a new attitude, because your vibration won't allow otherwise. You're no longer the same, and so you no longer attract the same. Now you have clarity, power, light, and only those who can shine with you will walk beside you. Jung said that when the soul is illuminated, shadows no longer rule, and you, by awakening, by choosing yourself, by valuing yourself, have lit up your own shadows, and that is what now protects you. Not a mask, not a shield, but an unbreakable inner truth. The love you once sought outside, you now embody. And that, my dear, is what makes him and any other man who meets you never see you as an option again, but as the center of a universe he deeply longs to explore. And here's the ultimate revelation. When you learn to ignore a man the right way, you're really just stopping ignoring yourself. You're paying attention to your intuition, your worth, your boundaries. You're coming home. And that journey back, that path of reconnecting with yourself, is what changes everything. Because you're not stopping love, you're learning to love better, with maturity, with wisdom, with respect for you. Silence is no longer emptiness, it's healing. Absence isn't revenge, it's balance. Distance isn't punishment, it's clarity. Everything you once hoped he would understand, you now understand. You no longer need his recognition to validate you, because now you recognize yourself. And that is freedom. Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. Today you've made that pattern conscious. You've broken it. You've rewritten your story. And from now on, no one will ever make you feel like you're not enough, because you've decided you're enough for you. And if you ever find yourself in a relationship where you feel you're giving too much, losing yourself, giving more than you receive, remember this message. Remember this process. Remember your power. This isn't about stopping love. It's about loving without losing you, giving without erasing yourself, sharing without abandoning your center. The man who deserves your love will be the one who respects your silence, values your presence, honors your energy, not because you ask, but because your inner strength inspires it. And if he doesn't, don't fear walking away, not with hate, not with anger, with dignity, with self-love, with the certainty that you deserve more. You're no longer a woman who begs for love, you're a woman who became love. And that kind of energy can't be ignored, can't be minimized, can't be replaced. That's your new standard, your new frequency. And whoever isn't willing to grow with you simply won't keep up. So today, choose to return to you. Choose to ignore what ignores you. Choose to walk away from what doesn't honor you. Choose your peace, your energy, your soul. And when you do, you won't just change your dynamic with men, you'll change your entire life, because every decision you make from your center brings you closer to your purpose, your truth, your brightest essence. Jung said the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. Everything else is a reflection of that connection. So if you want to attract love, first become love. If you want to be chosen, first choose yourself. If you want to be pursued, first stop chasing those who don't see you. You're not here to beg for attention. You're here to awaken souls, to activate the inner warrior in those who love you, to inspire respect, commitment, devotion. And that, my dear, is only achieved by the woman who learned to ignore from the soul, who no longer lives to be chosen, but lives to choose. Your energy is your magnet, and today you finally learn to wield it with wisdom.